Hi, Tom Trento, the director of the United West, today with a very special guest, dear friend of ours, Captain Dan Gordon. As you know, he's been on the show many times. He is a reserve officer with the Israeli Defense Forces, over 40 years in country, fighting for Israel in a whole variety of wars, but also an acclaimed Hollywood producer, director, analyst, and we have him today to get his insights into the Paris attack and any similarity, anything the West can learn from what has been going on in Gaza, in Israel, with the Jihad movement there. Dan Gordon, welcome back to the show.
Hi, great to be here.
All right, Dan, unfortunately, the Islamic State, known as ISIL or ISIS, we call it the Islamic State, but for today we'll call it ISIS. ISIS has a long reach and hit Paris very significantly. World leaders are dumbfounded. Why are they doing this? What do they want? What's going on? Can you help put this into perspective for the West, for the world, and for the average citizen, please?
Sure. I mean, I think it's hard for Westerners to conceptualize the enemy that we're facing right now. As I was just saying, back in Santa Barbara when we had the Iran rally, I spoke with a very knowledgeable, wonderful CIA analyst who was well-versed in Middle Eastern terrorism. And we got into it in a very friendly way, where I said that the premise of my book, which I'll plug, there it is, Day of the Dead, Book 1, Gaza, which is soon to be a major motion picture. And people should go out and buy it because it gives a preview of what I fear will happen in the United States and certainly what happened in Paris. I said that it's only a short matter of time before ISIS hits Europe first, and then it will hit the United States. The United States is the Super Bowl. Europe is a league game. And she said, no, absolutely not. ISIS, we have studied them. They have no global ambitions. They really want to consolidate a caliphate in territories of Iraq and Syria. And I said, you're misreading what their intent is. Their intent is actually global domination. And that may sound silly to you because you would say, well, only a superpower like the old Soviet Union or the People's Republic of China or the United States could be someone who could aspire to global domination. They actually can aspire to it and do. First of all, they regard Spain as occupied territory. Anything that was once ruled by Muslims, they regard as Muslim territory. Second of all, their goal is to establish a worldwide caliphate under Sharia law, which they proclaim. They're very honest about what their goals are. More importantly, what they've demonstrated is that they have the ability to jump across international borders without invading. They don't need to be like the German army in World War II and invade Poland. They can use social media to jump across a border and incite a local Islamic population. And Europe right now has a significant Islamic population. Brussels, where this attack evidently originated, is 30% Muslim. They'll probably be the first major European city with a Muslim mayor. This is not Sufi Islam, which is wonderful and poetic and inclusive. This is Salafist Islam, which is virulent and aims at conversion by the sword. We have not seen this type of Islamic expansionism and ambition in over 1,000 years. This is literally conversion by the sword. And they believe they can do it, and certainly in Europe they have a very good chance.
I think it's a fascinating new paradigm, and you hit on it, where in World War II and all wars previous, thousands of men and machines and horses and all kinds of stuff had to physically move across the landscape and be obstructed by the oppositional force, and that's how you infiltrated, or that's how you attacked other countries. Now it's done digitally. That's a whole nother show that we need to do at some point to deconstruct the use of social media. But in the few moments we have remaining in this segment, I want to make some parallels with the operational activity we saw in Paris and the similarity as to the way the Hamas has been operating in the Gaza Strip. Help us understand that.
Sure. ISIS had a very significant presence in Gaza during the 2014 war. They watched everything that Hamas did, they studied it, and they took the lessons from it. If you take a look at the types of weapons and the types of tactics that were used in Paris, they're exactly what Hamas tried to do to Israel, except Hamas was utilizing tunnels to infiltrate into Israel, and ISIS used Brussels to infiltrate into Paris. But the weapons were, you were talking about basically three-man squads with AK-47s, grenades, shotguns, trying to kill and maim as many people as possible. Here, evidently, they worked with a total of 8-9 men. That means you've got three-man squads. You can hit multiple locations at one time. The tactics were almost identical to what Hamas used against Israel. Just getting back to the earlier point, Paris was a double whammy for them, because when they hit Paris, they also at the same time on social media warned the Muslim population in Paris, which is sizable. There's going to be a fascistic backlash against all Muslims. Bar your doors against the Crusaders. ISIS is your only hope. So this is both hitting Paris and a recruiting tool to ISIS. And when that backlash hits, as it will, because Europe has, unfortunately, fascism in its DNA, and there are extremist elements in Europe that will rise to the occasion, you will find new recruits coming to ISIS as a result of that. So for ISIS, this was a double whammy and a success on all fronts.
Hey, Dan, you're a member of a very unique and distinct fraternity. You've been fighting Islamic Jihad for many, many years and many wars. And more so than most men on this planet, what advice do you have for the world leaders like Hollande and Obama who are trying to figure this out? And then what advice do you have for American citizens in terms of preparation for anticipated jihad attacks like this?
Well, for world leaders, it's to realize that we are in a world war. I mean, the definition of a world war is a war which is being waged globally. ISIS managed to pull off attacks simultaneously in multiple countries. It's a world war. And I think President Hollande said, France is at war. It's time for the NATO powers and the United States to say, yes, we are at war and we're going to win it. We're not going to contain it. We're not going to manage it. We're going to win it. And that entails doing some pretty awful things, but it's what one needs to do to win a war. In terms of citizens of the United States, unfortunately, it's only a matter of time, and I don't believe it's a long time, before ISIS attacks the United States and attacks it in a big way. And Americans have to have situational awareness, eyes in the back of their head, a personal plan of how they contact their loved ones, what to do in case of an emergency, and more than anything, they have to get on their legislators and tell them to get their heads out of their collective rectums, because we are heading for disaster. And honestly, not plugging my book just to plug a book, I would advise people to buy Day of the Dead, Book 1, Gaza, because it outlines what's going to happen. Buy one copy for yourself because it's a great Tom Clancy read, but buy a second copy for your congressman and your senator and send it to them and tell them to get their head out of a place where the sun never shines and begin to defend America, because they can't do it on the day of the attack. Then you're just scooping up dead bodies.
Hey, an unsolicited testimonial. I picked up your book and could not put it down until I finished reading it. It recollected the Operation Protective Edge last summer in Israel, and then it left one very concerned about what's going to take place in the United States. And I hear a movie's coming out on this. We'll check back with you in the near future. Dan Gordon, thank you very, very much for your time today. You stay safe, and we will indeed be back to you. Take care, Dan.
Thank you much.